in the right way. Good afternoon. My name is Kirsten Holst, and I'm from PC Schematic, and I'm going to guide you through this webinar about subdrawings in PC Schematic. I'll just give you a few practical information before we start. This is a webinar. It's online, which is okay with me, and I hope we will succeed and go through. My colleague, who is normally here with me, has fell ill, so I'm quite alone here, which means that normally if you have any questions, she'll be here and then she'll read the questions to me, or at least put my attention to the questions, and that way we can answer them during the webinar. But this time I'll need to shut down that window, because it's really disturbing when you run a webinar to have a questions pane popping up now and then with a few questions. But during the webinar I will open the pane, and then I'll look at it and see whether, I hope I'll do that anyway, whether there are some questions that should be answered during the webinar. But what I will do is that I'll go through how we use subdrawings in the program, PC Schematic Automation. And subdrawings is more or less, you could say, a very intelligent way of making copy and paste in the program. When you make normal copies, you have some limitations. Of course, you can copy and paste, and I guess that most of you already do that. But when we use a subdrawing function, then you have some more functionality. And I'll show you what that kind of functionality is and how you can make that work for you and with your components as well. We'll go through how you can use subdrawings. First of all, I'll just show you the basics of copy-paste, because you need to know about that in order to understand the functionality of subdrawings. And then first something about normal copy-paste, then subdrawings, the basics of that. And then we'll just go through the basics of the project generator. Project generator, as you can, which is named here, is a tool in the program which uses the what's it called, the subdrawings in order to generate projects automatically. But the basics of that, we'll go through that too. Then during the webinar, again, you can ask some questions, and I'll get back to them. If not today, then at least I'll do it later, because all the questions that you type, they'll be in the system, so then I can look at them later. Also, what we do here is that I'll record the session, meaning that later, I hope I'll do that tonight actually. Then I'll send the recorded version to you, so that you can watch it again if you would like to, or for those who are not online now, they can see the recorded version later on. So that was basically the introduction to this. Again, I will close. I'll close this one here, and then I'll just take it out now and again, because otherwise it'll be disturbing for me when I do the webinar. I hope that that's okay with you. First of all, if I go in and make a new project, and I always make new projects by using templates, and that's some of the advice that I'll show you when we make something here. Then I can go in, and then I could start drawing. And if I do any drawings manually, I can use all the manual functions, which you can learn about in the basic webinar. That could be something like the router. This one is a pure symbol. Actually, I prefer to work with components, which I normally do. Working with the component means that I have type an article number because I have an attached database to the system in which I'll find a lot of information about my components. Pictures, for instance. And that also means that all the rest of the symbols in my components will be available in this window here. But I guess that most of you have used the system before, and then you know about this. If you don't do that, then I'll just tell you that that you can see a lot about that in the basic webinars about basic use of the program, and you can also see that in the YouTube videos that we have on our YouTube channel. I'll not get further into that today. I'll also go in here and add a terminal row. This terminal row here is terminal row 1 with positions 1, 2, and 3. So this is a very, very basic, very small drawing. And my normal copy-paste functions will be like this. You can see when I do the drawings, I have symbols, I have lines, I have letters, circles, and then I have what we call area. If I go in and mark this area, I'll only mark whatever is within my markup here. If I do it the other way around, then now everything that I touch will be marked. That means that I can right click in here and say copy, and then I can paste it in my project, and you can see I'll need to either place it very meticulously, and then it will automatically rename the symbols, it will rename the terminals, and I'll go in like that. And then I could place one more, and what you can see now is that it will simply automatically rename according to the selections that I have already made. If I go out and just mark it once again, I could also just use the keyboard here. Then I could use the arrows, which sometimes is easier when you do it manually, and then you can put them in the project like this. So 2 different ways of doing it, but the basic functions are again that you copy and you paste. When you paste, I'll just put one more in. You can see that you can select not to rename the symbols. That would be crazy because each component must be unique. So it must have a unique name, and that name would simply be the next in line. You could, and I know that I will guess that some of you will name components according to the page and the current path that they are in. That's not according to the standard, but I know a lot of people do that. So keep on doing that if you do that. But that the system can do automatically. So use this automatic renaming function as long as you're in the program here. You can always rename it according to page and current path if you want to do that. Then according to regarding terminals, you can select either not to rename the terminals and then you can rename the terminals here later, as I do now, or you could select that one, or you could go in and say you want to rename terminal connection points. That means that the one I just connected is terminal 5, and then you can see it was 3 I connect, and then you can see it's 1, 2, 3 here and 4, 5, 6 here. So again, this is something that you can decide what to do, and a basic function here. That's normal copy paste functions that are in the program. I think I should just, because now I mention it myself, I never recommend using the what are they called, the current path naming. But if you want to do that, you can go in here and then you have basic naming conventions of how to name according to page and current path. And if you use this one, you could do that. Then you can go select that setting. Nothing changes yet. And then you can go to function, special function, and then you can go down and say create current path names on all symbols. in the project, and then it will look like that. It'll only work with the motors, by the way, not with the contacts, because they are named after the coil that you place later. So again, doing it this way, I think if you do it, then do it as a post-processing thing that you have in the project. Okay, that was just basic things here. If you have any questions, I think that they might be in here. Nobody asked anything yet, so I'll just I'll just keep on speaking here. So that's okay. But that's basic copying functions, so no problem with that one. But then I have the subdrawings, because I'll just start once again. If I go in here and start from the beginning again, then I have here what we call subdrawings, and subdrawings is another way of copying. You can see that I have a small pop-up here with a small motor in it, and if I drag this one into my drawing, then it will automatically place itself. If I take one more and drag it into the project, it will again automatically place itself. And the reason why it does that is that it's a subdrawing. The secret with subdrawings, it's a couple of secrets in it, but the main secret in this one is that if I zoom in up here, you can see I have a small figure here, and I think I'll just undo this. You can see on this page that I have here, then at the very beginning I have a small symbol here. We call it an insertion point. It's on all the basic templates that we deliver from our end, which means also that if you make your own templates, you should put it in here. But I have one insertion point here, and I have another insertion point here. Those two insertion points, they will mark the space on this drawing in which I can put in a subdrawing. If I go into the subdrawing here, you can see, which is quite hard right now, but you can see that it also comes with two insertion points, and one was here actually, and the other one is here, and that means that the size of the subdrawing is one current path wide. That also means that if I drag in one more, then you can see I have one insertion point here, one insertion point here, and they are the insertion points from the subdrawing. I think I'll just open this one here, because in that way it's easier to see. You can see that when I open this subdrawing here, I have a small insertion point here, I have one here, and they are part of my subdrawing here, and that they are the reason that this subdrawing will automatically align itself in this project here. So this is what the subdrawing looks like, and I guess that you can recognize it looks like very much like a normal project or normal drawing. But the secret behind those subdrawings are simply that I have those insertion points in it. So a simple subdrawing is quite easy to make, and I think we should go through how to make this very simple subdrawing. And I'll do it in my project here, because one piece of advice is that I'm very sure that a lot of you have projects that might look a bit like that one, stating or simply showing things that are repeated again and again and again. And it's very tempting to open one of those projects with a lot of repetitions and say, okay, I'll just copy the one that I like the most of those, and then I'll make that into a subdrawing. But you can see if I go in and take this one and copy that one, and then I could open a brand new file here and paste it, then you can see here, and that's the reason why, you can see that this one is not called Q1 or Q3. It's called Q3 because the one that I copied was called Q3. So by doing that, even though it's normally renaming itself, then I would never ever find the ones from the beginning. It would work okay if you do it by current path and pages, but that's not how to do it. In this way, I would have holes in it. So that's the main reason that when I make new subdrawings, I would never ever copy anything and say that this is my subdrawing, not directly from the project. Another reason why I don't just want to open an old project is that there might be a lot of hidden things in an old project. If you didn't make it yourself, you don't know anything about what's actually in it. And sometimes we have seen that there might be double lines, or there might be non-conducting lines, or there might be lines with data in them. And the main idea is simply that if you want to make new subdrawings yourself, start from the very beginning, because in that way you know exactly what is in your drawings. If you start by copying old stuff, you'll get a lot of old stuff, and that might also mean old mistakes and old faults, and that would be a little crazy, I think, to do that. So if you're going to make a new subdrawing, I think you should start by drawing, making the drawing from the very beginning. And that was rule number one: start from scratch. Not scratch, but from a reasonable level. And the reasonable level, in my opinion, is that you have a template, and that's the first thing that you need to decide how does it look. Because if I'm going to make a drawing that should fit onto a page like this one, I could of course go into, like the page I had up here, go into a page like this and start drawing. But it would be quite hard for me to know exactly the length of, if I'll just start up here. I'll park them because I'll always do that. It's hard for me to know exactly the length of this line, which would make it fit. You see that? So when I start making a new drawing, I think the easiest and the best way to make this new drawing is simply open the template on which you're going to use your drawing. And that means that in this startup project that I have here, I'll simply go in and use the pages that I have here. That means that if I'm going to make a new drawing, and for those who have attended some of the other webinars, you probably know and recognize that I always use a lamp as examples. Lamps because they are very simple components. And in this one here, I'll just go in and take this empty symbol here. Not a component, but an empty symbol. And if I go in and make it here, I could go in and say that, because connection points can be updated or normally updated from the database, but if lamps are called X1 and X2, I think I would go in, because it would be easier for me later on, and say that I'll simply type in the names here. Could do it or I could not do it, but now I did it. So, and then if I want to use this as a subdrawing, I want the subdrawing also to include a insertion point. And you can see all my templates here, they are made with insertion points. So what I will do is I'll simply copy this one, and then I'll place it here. And you can see, I think they're not very clear to you either, but I have some small dots here. You can see the dots here. And it's so that the distance between my numbers here, they are 40 millimeters. And that distance is a recommended distance when you look in the standard that talks about technical drawings or electrical technical drawings like this. 40 millimeters is a distance here. And if I want my drawing to be centered in the current path, then I'll have 20 millimeters on that side and 20 millimeters on that side, which again is 40 millimeters. And between those dots, I have 10 millimeters. So yeah, as long as you can see the dots, I think it's quite okay. So, but then I place them here, and when I want to make this sub-drawing here, I'll simply go in and copy, and then I'll do that way because otherwise I'll not include those ones here. And then I will copy, Control C, and then I'll go in here in this window here. You can see I have my sub-drawings here. I could go up here and then I could save in the library in the folder here, or I could simply go in and say I want to have a new, and then I can paste it in here, the things that I just copied, and place it here, and remember to say rename symbols. And then this is my sub-drawing actually, more or less. If I go in here and say File, Save As, and then I could call it, I have one AAA, then I think I'll just call it BB, because in that way it'll be around here. And this is my small sub-drawing. I'll go in and say File, Close, and I can see that it works here. You can see I'll just move that one, and I do it because in that way I can use this page again. You can see I have my small sub-drawing here. I can drag it. I can drag one more. I can drag one more, and you can see they are automatically placed in my diagram. Just open the question pane. Do you have any questions to that? Anyone? Nobody typed anything. So if you don't have any questions, I think I'll just continue. Yeah, okay. I hope you can still hear me at least. So yeah. Okay, I'll close this question pane again, and then I'll continue. This was a very basic drawing that I have made here. Again, I draw on the page that I need to use it on, and it's simply because that's the easiest way to make sure that the size of it, that means in this case here, it's the height of my drawing, will fit exactly. So that's the reason why I do that. By the way, some of you, and I think that's quite important too, when you make drawings, right now I have made them only with dots. You can make directional drawings as well, and you do that simply by selecting this one here. If I go in and take my drawing here and place it, then it will look okay like that. But when you make your drawing, it's very important that you do it only with the dots, because in that way you get the height. If you go in here, and that's how the system works right now. If I go in here, you can see that this the angle here, that will simply be deleted when you copy it. So in that way you'll get smaller holes if you copy something that's been made mounting correct. As long as it's in the ends. If it's in the middle of something, then there's absolutely no problem. But if you make a control circuit like this one, you should be sure that when you make it, you should make a very simple drawing with dots. Otherwise, it'll be too small for the drawing. That's important to remember. Okay. This was the simplest drawing that you could make. Make it on the page that you should use it on. Remember the insertion points, and then save it, and then it works. No problem. That's a very simple drawing. I'll make a new one, because in that way you will learn the next one. Because sometimes, and then we'll go back to this motor here. By the way, all the examples that I have here, they're also included when you have downloaded the demo version of the program. So whatever I do here, it's possible for you to try it out for yourself as well. You can see this motor that we started with just before looks like this, and then I could drag them into the project. And the components that I have here, when I first made this this drawing, that's way back, but when it was made back then, I included type and article number on the drawing and in the drawing, and in that way I could update my parts list, my components list, and everything would be okay. But when you look at the drawing like this, you could say that there's no big difference between the drawing of a motor circuit with a small motor with like this one, 1.1 kilowatts, and you cannot see that because I think my database has been I'll do it this one component, that's this script. I'll take this UK script and put it here, and in this way you can see now it's 1.1 kilowatt. But if I had to use a motor that was bigger, then it would probably, the circuit would probably look exactly the same. I guess that you agree. I cannot hear any one of you saying anything, but I'll just undo those two here, because I have another variant of this drawing. You can see this one, they look very much the same. This one is called var or VAR, variable. If I drag that one into my project, then I get a small question. Here it says model not selected, because in this drawing here, I have different models of the same circuit. It could be a motor with 1.1 kilowatt. That would mean a small motor with thin cables and small terminals and a small motor protection. If I took this one, I would have thicker cables and bigger terminals and a bigger motor protection unit. So in the same drawing, I have different models, and that means that if I put this one in, it's 1.1. If I drag this one in, I could take 3.3. And you can see that it's exactly the same drawing. It's exactly the same kind of symbols that are in it, but it's different data. Because when I do the drawing, and I guess that you do that too, those of you who use the system already, you use data with it, but sometimes you can see that the drawings look so much alike no matter what kind of component you have in them. So if you had to have 3, 4, 5 different drawings that would look exactly the same here to select from, that would be crazy, and it's not efficient. It would be better to do it this way, and in that way you could go in and select exactly the model that you wanted to do, wanted to use, and then I could go in and take it this way, and that's quite easy to make. If I go up again, and then I could take this small BB thing that we just made. If I go in and edit this one, I could go in here and say what is actually deciding which component to take from my database. And I cannot hear any one of you saying anything, but when I connect it to a database, it's the article number that will be the thing that decides which component to take. And that means that if I can get my article number to vary with the different models, then I could simply go in and select a lot of different things. And how to add a variable thing to an article number here, simply to call it a dash, slash, I think not backslash, but slash, and then add, and then give it a number. That typing here means variable, and that's important to remember when we talk about subdrawings. That's a variable, this one. And if I want to use a small drawing here with different components, I added this variable, and then I must save it. So when I save it, I can right click here on variables, and then I have something here called variables, funny, and then I could go in and add a model. And then I could go in and say I have a model title here, and I think I'll make lights crossings or something. So I'll just call this red because I need to have a red lamp. And then when I go in here, I can go into my database. I'll simply right click. I can right click and select my database. And then in my database, I have different lamps. And the ones that I always have are filament lamps. And then I have a red lamp with a built-in resistor. And if I double click on this one, you can see that I get the article number from that lamp. Normally article numbers here are EAN numbers, because EAN numbers are barcode numbers. They are the unique ID number that you have for components when you want to buy them. So this should be an EAN number. If I want to add another one, I can add another one, and I'll call that yellow. And then I could right click again, go to the database, and then I would take the yellow lamp here, and I could add one more lamp here, and that would be no, not a lamp, it would be green. And then I could right click here in the database, and then I could select the green lamp. It's here. And when I have done that, I could go in and save it again, file, close. And when I go here and drag it into my project, then I get those selections here. And I could go in and say, I wanted to have the green lamp and or the red lamp here. And what actually happens is that instead of having just this dash add one, it will write the article number for the red lamp. It'll write the type for the red lamp. I have the description for the red lamp because it comes from the database. And then I also have some mechanical accessories for this one, because this lamp here was in my database created in a way that it has always a socket included. And that's what we call mechanical accessories, fixed accessories anyway. And this simply came in because it was created this way. And if I drag in one more lamp, you can see now it's yellow. And I could take, the type is also put in here, and then I could take the green one, type symbols are updated. Then you can see that red lamp, green lamp, yellow lamp, so all the lamps are in the project now. I guess that most of you thought that this was okay, easy to do. So one smart thing is that when you have created subdrawings with models in, you can always redo, and not just by Control Z. You can right click on the page, and then you can say this variable, and then you could go in and say, I want them all to be green lamps, and then you can simply go in here, say green, 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 and then my symbols are updated here. You see green lamp, this one is also now green, this is also green. And it also works on this one, because if I go into this one here, that was my motor. This motor here is actually 1.1, and you can see the article numbers that I have here. And in this crazy example that I prepared that 1 year ago, and I didn't think so much about it. But in back then I also put up the name here as a variable, which can be okay, but sometimes it's not. But you can see the article numbers here, they belong to 1.1, they belong to 3.3, they belong to 2.2 kilowatts. If I want to change it, you can see then everything is changed. All data in this drawing is changed because I have in the drawing created sets of data that fit with a component of a certain size. Because again, as we started saying when we started this, if I have a big motor, I'll have thick cables and big terminals and a big motor protection. If I have a small motor, it'll be thinner cables and thinner but smaller terminals and a smaller motor protection. So all components that fit together, they do it because they have different sizes or different whatever, but they fit together and they have the same symbols, some of them do, but there's different components behind the drawing, and that's what you can see here. You can change everything in this window here if you want to do that. So by putting them up as sub-drawings, you get a full functionality here that you could go in and change it this way. That also means that if I think, as I do today, that this is a little crazy, I could go in and change the name of the components here, and then I could make it function okay. And then in that way, you can see that things here will look okay. But I hope that this gives you an idea of the functionality that you have in the subdrawings here. Any questions here? Because in that way, if you have that, I will go in and answer them. No one? I could say that you're very quiet. I know it sounds like a bad joke because I'm the only one who's allowed to speak, so I'm the only noisy person here. But again, if you have any questions, please just type them in, or you could, as I put up at the beginning, you could send them by mail to me, either Kirsten at PCSCHEMATIC.com, or easier just to type into webinar at PCSCHEMATIC.com, because in that way it'll go directly into my mailbox. So don't hesitate if you have anything, or if you have anything later, you can just do that, because then I'll get back to you, or one of my colleagues will. I think it'll be me, but simply type in the questions if you have any, and then we'll get back to you. Okay, no questions so far, so I'll just close the window here again. This here is a subdrawing with models in, and it's got different sizes. And some of you might say, and I'll do it on this lamp here because it's a simple model here, that this drawing here, this very, very complicated drawing with the lamps here, I heard that they came up with a new lamp in this make. Could I add my drawing? Yes, of course you can. If I go into this drawing here and edit again, then I could right click once again to variables, and I could go in and add a model and say I want to have a white lamp, because I know there's a white lamp in my database. And if I go in and add that lamp to the model, it's where is it? White is here. Then this lamp is in my drawing as well. So I'll just save it, and I'll just close it. And then I have this lamp here, and I'll drag it in, and then I will take the white lamp here. And that's okay. So if I go into now and right click and see here, then I can see in the last one here, I have the red, yellow, green, and white. But in this one, I only have the red, yellow, green. Okay, what could I do? Okay, so a couple of years ago, you simply had to start from scratch. But what you can do that now is that you can right click on this drawing. Then you can update the model data in the active project. And if you do that, then it will search through the project and see all the places in the project where you use this subdrawing, and say that found it, and now it's updated, because this section called the subdrawing is identifiable throughout the full project. So it will be fairly easy for the program to find it. And here it found 4 places where the subdrawing was used, and all 4 sections have been updated. And now if I go in and say variable, then I have updated all drawings so that all of those drawings here could now be white. And then I have white lamps throughout this one. This also means that if I go to the former page here, and go down and find this motor drawing here, variable. If I want to go into this one and say I want to have a new model, I can add a new model. I'll just do it like this. It'll probably look very much like this one. So I could copy my model data, right click, and then I could paste my model data. And then you can see that, yeah, I think you agree with me. It would be okay just to change this motor. Maybe I think maybe you didn't notice because I didn't show it to you yet. But can you see my crosshairs? They're here at the motor. This one here is my motor protection. This one is my contactor, and this one is the name of my contactor. So as long as you're in doubt of what's actually in this subdrawing, you can simply click in this grid here, and then you can see that the crosshairs are moving. In order to avoid that, I often go in. That's because, you know, with experience comes a lot of good ideas. But then I would go in and say that I would make today, if I was going to make this one from the beginning, I would make a model 0. And in my model 0, I would go in and say that this It's not just a number here, but I will go in and say that this is my EAN number for the motor. This would be my article number, EAN number for my protection or for my contact, and that would be the name for my contact. So what I would do today, and what my advice to you is that make yourself another model here. I call it model 0, but simply call it whatever your variables are covering, and in that way you make documentation of your own drawing. So then I would do that. But what I need to do here is to change this article number here. So I'll go in my database, and I know that my EAN numbers look very much the same. So I would simply go in my database and fetch this one, a 3-phase motor, 4.4 kilowatts, and then I have all the rest of the article numbers. They would be okay. So then I'll click OK, and I would save it, and I would close it. And then here I would go in, and you can see that I could go in and change them only to 1, 2, 3. I could again right click, and I could update the model data. It will find those 3, and then I could right click, and then you can see I have this model 4 here. So simply to show you that it's a full set of data, not just one article number, but a full set of article number that goes into one model. So that's quite important for you to understand that. Okay, that was important to know as to how to update the data. But sometimes, if you have made drawings that you might not like them very much anymore, then there's also instead of just updating them, then you might want to simply clear everything and say it should not be this drawing, it should be a different drawing instead. So I want to replace something here. If I go in here and select, then I have something called object groups. Object groups, subdrawings, they are more or less the same. If I go in and select my object group here, I could right click again and then edit, and then I have a possibility to see that I have object group. It's the same name as my subdrawing, by the way, if you didn't recognize it, but I have possibility to replace the object group, and that would be the full subdrawing that I could replace here. If I want to replace, then I have, you can see this is more or less exactly the same as I have out here. And then I'll just put this lamp in here. I could replace either one group, all on the page, all in the project. I'll just take that. And then it will go through the project, and it will rename everything, and it will rename again. And it was done 3 times, and then doesn't look very nice, but I guess that you saw it was completely replaced. And it also took the new names, because in this here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and those would be 5, 6, 7. So again, as soon as it's grouped in subdrawings, it's possible to do something with it. You can give it, it's grouped, and you know it's a model, for instance, and then you can replace everything. So that's what I wanted to show you about the models here as such. When we talk about what are they called, subdrawings once again, then I can also do something else, because I have, and that could be interesting for you to know too. I have this one here, that's no, not that one, the lamp here, because I have a special symbol that I can use for subdrawings, and that symbol is a variable line, you could call it. I think it was called a line connect symbol, but you can see this one here, 1, 2, 3. That was the wrong one that I selected here. I think I'll take one called 3 here, and then it will connect. You can see the line connect here is different. This one I cannot redo later, but show you what this is. You can see here that it's connected to L1, to L3, to L2. And why? Because if I right click here and edit here, I can go in, and up here I have a special symbol. This symbol here is what we call a line connect symbol. I think I'll just show you where to find it. In this MISC folder, miscellaneous, I have a line connect with 3 connections. I have a line connect with 4 connections. And they're just the symbols that are there. They've been there for ages. So now you can see how to use it. It's put in here as a last connection here up to the faces. And it's made in a way that it's simply a variable again. Default variable or default value is L1 and is variable number 1, and it could be either L1 or L2 or L3, and you can see L1, L2, L3. And that's a reason why this line varies in height. So that's a special symbol that could go with the subdrawings. And again, it's here PCS lamp, yet another lamp. So if you want to look further into it when this webinar is finished, please do. And no questions so far? No? Then I'll just close it again. And then we'll go. But this is a special symbol type that you can use with subdrawings. So that's one thing with subdrawings. And then I'll show you one more thing. This is a new drawing that I just made, so it's not in your installation, but it's nonetheless quite relevant, because when I put in a motor, small motor drawing like this one, I could go in and say not select model, and then it will look like this. In this project here, I have added what we call a reference frame. This reference frame could go in and attach other names to those components here. If you have I don't know how familiar you are with reference designations, but if you have a big project with reference designations in, they would, maybe it's easier just to show it to you how it could work. If I take this demo 2 or demo 3, whatever, demo 2, it's a very simple project here, and it's also in your package because it's in all demo downloads too. In this project here, I have a small control panel, and I have 2 small control units in which I could push a button, say I want the garage door to open or the garage door to close, or I want to press the emergency exit. In this one here, you can see that I have 2 push buttons called S3, they will take the door down, 2 push buttons S2, they'll take the door up, and 2 push buttons S1, that's emergency stop. And everybody knows that you cannot have 2 buttons with the same name in a project. Everybody knows about that. But if you are producing those door control systems, as I'm trying to in this demo here, then it would be very, very practical when you do the production, the actual production of it, that you could make a lot of boxes and you could mark and label them all, and then you simply put a lot of S1s, S1s, S2s, S2, S3, S3s. But you need to be able to differ between them when they're actually used in the project. And you can see this one, the full name of that component is +12 because I've added a code. That's what we call a reference designation, a code saying that +12 means outdoor control unit, and it means the full name of this component is +12 S1, and this one here is +11 S1 because that's my control unit. That's to be placed indoors. But when I do the production of those small units, I can do it very, very easily. I could make hundreds of them and stack them or stock them, I think it's called. And then it will be easy for me to take them down from the stock and to the customer. But in my documentation, as in here, I could again put S2, but the full name, you see +11, and that's what's outside of this reference block here, or reference frame here, and that's what I was trying to use in this subdrawing as well. And then I'll just close this one here, because now in this one it's empty, so nothing is in it. But if I take this one in again, and drag it into my project. Then you can see I have variables here. I have a variable on my function. My function is has a prefix of equal sign. So if my function is A1 and my location, and I'll just call it is plus B2 on, and my product is called minus C1. I could type them in here and click OK. And then the full name of that component, you can see that would be A1, B2, and C1.Q2. And this one here is still only Q1. If I take one more in, I could do the same. And now I could call it, was not very smart. I should have called it A2, and then I can call it B3. I should have called it 1, and okay, but C3 here. And then I could go in, and then I will update again. And you can see it's still called Q2 and still called F2, and it's a new box here altogether, but the names are also different. So that's an important thing that you should consider also to have in your reference, or in your subdrawings, of course. I could also do it in another way, and that also goes for normal copying, because you can see also have a button here called reference designations. I could also go in here and say that I could go in and select them from here, or I could create a new one in my project here. Because as soon as I start working with my reference designations, the program will automatically put the ones that I type in, put them in this list here. But if I want to have one myself called A3, for instance, I could simply go in and type it. I could give it a description if I wanted to. I could go in here and find a new one that would be B1 then, I guess, and then I could type a description for that one. Or if I had them, I could go up and I could pick them from a list, and I have a list here. I think they're also called A2. No, they're called something different. And then they could be added to this list here. So it means that when I go in and use this list here instead, I could also select them from whatever I had in my project. And I need to take the second line here. I don't know exactly why. But and then simply take them from here, okay, and then again I could select them from a list. So when you work with subdrawings, you can also work with reference designations. I would say, of course you can, because otherwise it wouldn't work. Okay, time is running quite fast right now, so I think I'll just show you a few examples. This was sort of the basics of what you can do with your subdrawings, and I think that start making them. That would be my best advice to you. Think about the sizes of them, and that would mainly be something very related to your templates. Use the templates that we have, in that way it will make it easier for yourself, but otherwise you should be quite strict with sizes, because as soon as you start working with subdrawings, you repeat and repeat and repeat. It also means that when you make your own subdrawings, it's important that that you're quite meticulous. That means that if you put one in like this one here and put it in, you can see that if when I made it, I wasn't very strict about having it exactly 40 millimeters wide. It would grow and then it wouldn't look okay. You see, now they will be very, very neatly placed in each current part. If I go in and edit, just to show you and say, I only put it here, just save it. You can see now it's not exactly the size. Then you can see that it will be very, very soon. It will not be exactly aligned. So that's, again, when you start making those subdrawings, be quite neat with them, because otherwise it doesn't look very nice. But that was a basic of making those subdrawings here. Any questions to that with making subdrawings? No? Then the only other conclusion that I will make to that is that I think you should try them, because copy paste is quite simple. Everybody can copy paste. That's not very complicated. But making sub-drawings would make it just a little more intelligent, and making them with models would definitely speed up a lot of things. When I see our customers here, that most of them, I would say 90% of them, would use sub-drawings because, again, they can see that this is quite smart. And they would use the models as well, because in that way you can have things look very much the same, because that's like quite important when you put this documentation to the workshop, is that the same kind of circuit looks the same way, because you can make a drawing in many different ways. But using the sub drawings means that every time that you make a drawing of this kind of circuit, then it will look very much the same. Now I can see there's a question, so I cannot see. As 5 minutes, it's I'll finish in 5 minutes. Yes, I think that's what you're going to ask about. So yes. So yes, I'll finish in about 5 minutes. Do it this way, and then it will look good. But yes, what I was going to say is that our customers, they use a lot of sub drawings simply because it's so easy to make the drawings. But what they can also do is that they can use as what we call the project generator. The project generator is a small tool, and in this one here, it's called PCSPG Demo 1. That's a small demo of the project generator. I'll just show you very quickly what this one does. This one generates a very small project. I guess that you can recognize this one, because that's a sub-drawing with this motor control. And in this way here is also with my with the control pages too, as also with updated parts list and control component list and all the lists in here. And this is simple to make if you have the sub drawings. And I'll just show you very quickly what it does. Because in this one here, and then I have this demo here because that's a file that I have. If you go into this one and have a look, then you can see that up here I have this demo, this sub-drawing file. There's a template in here. There's my sub-drawing file, and then all my variants here have been spelled out more or less. And this is also the reason why the name was a variant, because in that way it's possible for me to control the name of the components that are on my power drawing and in my control drawings. So that's the reason actually why I put the name up as a variable as well. But this here is a very simple sub-drawing file, or in the project generator file, and it's simply made by having from up here, this PC schematic pages should be the headline, and then the templates, the different pages that I have, and then all my different sub-drawings that are in it. And then my variables, my values for the variables, so they're in the file as well. If I just don't save this one, because I have another one that this is the one that I could make here too. I don't know how if you're going to do any sub drawings yourself, or if you have any right now. But as soon as you get started, I think that you'll experience that things are speeding up. And that it looks so much neater. And I think the most important thing actually is that making a drawing, maybe your drawings are not exactly like this, but making drawings of the same thing should actually make them look the same. And that's what you can do when you use the sub drawings. I think they're quite easy to make. I've tried it too a lot of times, but I hope that you find also that they are quite easy to make. I can see now time has ended. It's 5 o'clock. I hope that you enjoyed the webinar. And once again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send them to us. Webinar@pcschematic.com, and the recorded session here will come to you in very shortly, or tomorrow probably. And then I hope to see you again for another webinar. Thanks for now.